Hi, and welcome to episode 44 of the Give Me a Crown Knitting, Spinning and Bits and Pieces podcast. My name's Nina, also known as Give Me a Crown on Ravelry, Instagram, Pinterest, and it's also the name of my Etsy shop where I sell project bags, DPN cozies, pencil cases and various things. It's lovely to have your company. Today is Monday the 8th of August 2016. It's been a very busy week. It feels like I haven't actually podcasted in weeks and weeks, but it's actually only been 7 days. But I haven't got a huge amount to show you. I have a finished object and I've got some works in progress, but I haven't had a chance to work too much on my spinning, so I'll leave that for next week. And next week I'm going to be celebrating the 1 year podiversary of this podcast, so I will be putting together a bit of a giveaway which I'll announce next week, so I hope you can tune in then. If you're a new viewer, thank you for checking me out, and if you're a returning viewer, then thank you so much. I really appreciate the fact that people actually do watch my little podcast, and it's always good to get comments in YouTube and in the Ravelry group, so thank you. On with the show. I have a finished object, which is my little newborn vertebrae. So I sort of started showing this a little while ago now, and then put it down for a little while, and then I got a little nudge and I decided to just get on with it and finish it up. So I've been pretty monogamous on this week. This is knit from Morris & Sons Estate 4-ply fingering weight yarn. So Morris & Sons is an Australian yarn shop, but I guess you'd still call them an independent, even though they have a couple of branches in Sydney, Melbourne, Katoomba and somewhere else. I think they have a fourth one. And they have an online shop, so this is their own brand of yarn. And it's something that I've used before in shawls and pullovers and what have you, and I find that it wears well. So this newborn vertebrae is going to my cousin who's waiting on a little girl. So it's not your typical girly colours. It's a sort of a burnt orange with grey, but I thought it had a bit of a retro feel, so I'm hoping that my cousin doesn't mind that. But it was something that I had in my stash and thought that it would work nicely. This is a free pattern and it is for a newborn size, so it is tiny. That doesn't really fit me. But the pattern is also available in sort of baby, toddler, adult, various sizes as paid patterns. And I found that it was a really fairly straightforward knit. I think that there'd be a few techniques in there, such as picking up this button band, not that it actually has buttons, but the band that goes around. That's a technique that if you were a new knitter to cardigans, it might be worth checking out some online tutorials on how to do that. But overall straightforward, and it's the sort of thing that if you're new to cardigan knitting or thinking about knitting a cardigan for yourself, then knitting a baby or newborn size version sort of gives you the idea of how to do raglan increases on the arms and picking up button bands and picking up for the sleeves and those kind of things. So it's a fun little knit to try out some of the techniques without investing weeks and weeks of your life into knitting an adult sized version. What else? So I used some stripes in here because I was fairly sure that I was going to run out of yarn. I had 37 grams of this Tuscan colour and the whole garment weighs 52 grams, so I definitely would have run out. I'm pretty sure that if I hadn't put these stripes in here, and even if I'd have had the grey for the ribbing, I probably still would have run out. I would have got to about there on the second sleeve and I would have run out of yarn, so it was a good idea for me to put some stripes in there. I did them a little bit random. I didn't necessarily have a real plan for it, but I didn't want them to be sort of fixed width stripes. And you might see in there that some of the stripes are one row, and this was knit back and forth, and I was using a circular needle, and I don't know whether it's just some of my random browsing on Pinterest that I once must have read something about the fact that if you want single stripes in a back and forth knit, then just scoot all your stitches over on the circular needle to the other end, and then knit another row with the other colour, if that makes sense. So you essentially knit a row of orange, switch all your stitches, push them to the other end, pick up the grey, knit a row of grey, and then you sort of can adjust the frequency of your stripes. So it allows you to, rather than knit one way and then the other, to do sort of a knit and a purl row and then pick up the other colour. You sort of switch up the order that you're doing your knitting in. But as I was knitting, I just thought, oh, I'll give this a try, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I didn't use the exact sized needles that this called for. I think it was calling for a 2.75mm and a 3.25mm, and I used a 2.5 and a 3, so I was 0.25mm off from the recommended size, but it doesn't matter. A 0.25mm difference in needle size is really not going to make much of a difference, especially on something this size. I got the gauge based on what the pattern was calling for with the needles that I use, so don't always fret if you don't have the exact needle sizes, especially when the increments are so small. So yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that. It's a cute little garment, and I'm going to send this off pretty soon so that it gets there in time, because this really isn't going to be a suitable size once the baby is sort of a month old or something. They grow pretty quickly, so, but it should be nice for the first few weeks of its life. And the idea with it is to have this open area so that if they expel liquids, then they don't go over all their clothes, and also that they can get a bit of tummy time. So hopefully my cousin likes it. I'm really happy with it, and I would definitely knit another one if somebody else I know happens to have a baby. I have also been working on a few projects. So this is my vanilla chow socks. So I'm calling it vanilla chow because it's a vanilla sock and the yarn brand is chow. So that's the start of my second sock. And if you watched last week, then you'll know that I was having some dilemmas about whether or not my stripes should match and how matchy they should be. So I ended up actually ripping back what I had done last week on this second sock, and I shifted the start of the sock to be a little bit further along, because last time it was just slightly off, and now I feel like they're definitely not matchy. And yeah, I think they look a little bit more deliberately not matchy than accidentally not matchy. These are being knit on higher sharps, 2.25mm, which I think is US 1. They're the 15cm or 6-inch needles, and I'm knitting 64 stitches. So that's the second one, that's the first one, no, that's the first one, that's the second one, and it's just something that I'm picking up in between when I just feel like knitting a little bit of stockinette. And I'm sure that now that my newborn vertebrae is done, then these socks will get a little bit more love, but these are going to be a Christmas present anyway, so there's no rush whatsoever. One other idea I did have about the making them not match was that I could have taken the yarn from the outside of the yarn ball, because I had knit the first sock from the inside of the yarn ball. So if I'd have taken it from the outside of the yarn ball, then the stripes would have been going in the opposite direction, and that would have definitely made them not match. So that's something that I'll keep in mind in the future. My next work in progress is my Corridale beanie. So this is something that I am kind of making up as I go, using some of my own hand spun, and this is how it looks so far. So I think last week it was just somewhere a little bit above this lifeline, and I did some measurements against my other beanies, and I decided that yep, I had enough increases for the crown, and I'd sort of done my measurements based on my gauge and the circumference of hats basically. I popped in the lifeline just in case, and so that just means that if I wanted to, I could rip back to where that lifeline is going through my stitches so that I can pick up all my stitches easily. Now, it's a brown hat or a brown beanie, and there's a bit of patterning going on there. It can be very hard to show. There we go. So there are some bubbles in there. Some bubbles going over here. There's actually also a diamondy pattern going on, but it's just not showing up. So it's showing up a bit more on camera with my light, but in real life you can kind of see it a little bit, just a bit of texture, but I'm just not certain that I'm happy with the amount of visibility on that texture. So I have a feeling I'm going to rip back to the lifeline anyway and play around with some other kind of slightly more textured patterning. I was really happy with this too, so it's a little bit disappointing. But I think what I'll do is I've sort of drawn out a chart for this pattern, and I think I will try it out on a much lighter yarn. So not necessarily a pastel, but even a light grey or something would show it up a bit more. So next week, chances are I'll have about the same amount of hat knitting done again, and hopefully it will be a little bit more visible than what it is now. My next work in progress is my sock yarn blanket. So put in a few squares since I last showed it. So this one uses a couple of minis that were sent to me by Tammy from Girl So Sheepy Etsy shop, whose project bag is this beautiful cat one back here. So this is the black with some other colours in there, and then there's a sort of a dark green in here in the corner, and it's really, really nice. It's just not coming up on camera necessarily because it is a dark colour, but it's really beautiful. Then I started a new row somewhere this end, and this is another one from Tammy, and I absolutely love this one. It's coming up a little bit more of the colours in here, but there's sort of a brown going through this green, this sort of purpley colour, and then there's more of a coppery brown, and then a different kind of brown up here. So it's just sort of these stripes of brown, and I have no idea what that yarn is, but my goodness, it's amazing. And I would love to have socks and a beanie and some mittens and a top and everything out of this yarn. I love browns. I really do love browns. And especially when they're sort of treated in such a fun way as that it's got other colours in there, but it's still definitely brown. And this next one is one of my hand dyed minis that I made up a little while ago, a month and a half ago now. So it's just a grey with some darker greys in it, and I'm really happy with how that turned out. I was really looking forward to trying this one out because it was the favourite of the minis that I made, and it's one that has been popping into people's orders if they're ordering medium project bags from the shop, so I'm popping in some freebies when I'm sending out like larger parcels. So my sock yarn blanket is growing. I think it's going to get a little bit more love this week, and it's been a while since I showed the backside and I did say that I would weave in my ends a long time ago, but you'll see I haven't been. So there are ends everywhere, and I really should take a bit of time to tackle those just to neaten it up, but I'm still trying to decide how big to make it. At the moment I like the width of it. I might need to put one more row onto it on the side, and then I'm just going to grow the length, so it's going to be sort of a one-person blanket sitting on the couch and that kind of thing. It's nice. And that's it for my projects this week. So little bits and pieces done, but I'm really happy that I got my newborn vertebrae done so that it can get on the way over to Finland. I have some acquisitions which are over here. So a lovely viewer of the podcast sent me a wonderful package, and it contained lots of lovely minis. So there's a selection of minis from Dingo Dye Works, and I haven't tried, this is the Fair Dinkum yarn, and I haven't tried this before, but it feels absolutely amazing. It's a non-superwash yarn, and the colours are beautiful, they feel super soft, so I'm looking forward to playing with those. There was also some Misty Alpaca, and I'm not sure if this is variegated or self-striping, but I will find out when it goes into my blanket. Some Stray Cat socks, and I love Stray Cat socks. I've tried it with a mini that I was sent before, and I'm always checking out the Etsy shop to see what other colourways are in there. There's a few beautiful browns, so it's definitely on my list of shops to buy from sometime very, very soon. There's some Miss Click Clack, and this is the Flash Merino, Fenwick Street Flash Merino, and it's beautiful. I haven't used this base from Miss Click Clack before, but it's so soft and makes me want to shop with Miss Click Clack. I have been checking out her shop for possibly a pullover quantity and maybe a cardigan quantity. I window shop a lot, especially on Etsy. And then this is amazing. So this is which way does it go? A mini from Skein. So this is an actual sock mini. It's in the colourway Hero, 85% superwash merino, 50% nylon, 88 yards or 80 meters in 20 grams. And that's just amazing. I haven't broken into my skein yarn yet that I bought recently, so I have a feeling this is going to be my first bit of skein yarn. Do I have skein yarn in my blanket? There might actually be some in there, but not like this. So, but then again, that's a really good quantity, so maybe I should actually think about putting this into something else, maybe an accent in a shawl or something. decisions. So that was very, very, very nice to receive in the post. And I think the rest is just going to be a bit of chatter. So if you're not interested, thank you very much for watching. You can always pop by the Ravelry group and say hello if you want to. Otherwise, I hope you tune in next week for the giveaway for the 1-year podiversary. So a few weeks ago I mentioned I was checking out some audiobooks, and I wanted to say thank you to those who have made some recommendations on audiobooks to check out based on how happy they were with the narrators and the stories. The selection that I've got access to isn't very big, but it's always good to get those recommendations because I can try to chase down the audiobooks if I sort of get into more of a habit of listening. So the week's been busy, so I haven't had a chance to listen that much, but I decided to give a non-fiction book a go, and I downloaded Happiness by Matthew Ricard. And it's a book a bit about Buddhism and psychology and brains and various things. So it's just something to, I don't know, give me a chance to hear somebody else's thoughts on a topic rather than a novel where I feel like I want to read something and then ponder it myself and then sort of try to make connections. And when someone's reading to me with a novel, I feel like I'm not reflecting on what I'm reading or what I'm hearing. So I thought a non-fiction book might be a bit more of a easy thing to listen to, and it seems to be going okay. I'm sort of halfway through the book. I find it really hard to think of them as books when they're audiobooks, but they are books, I guess. So yeah, it's the sort of topic that sometimes I delve into, so it's been interesting to listen to, and I'm sure that I'll give some fiction books a go again soon. Maybe I'll do one non-fiction and then one fiction, but it's a different type of consumption of information, so it takes a little bit of getting used to, at least for me. So what else? There hasn't been too much going on in the village. I've had some chatters with sheep and with birds, so if any of the footage from the past week has worked out okay, then I'll pop them in at the end. I also picked up some new fabrics, so there have been a few new fabrics appearing in the Etsy shop in the past week, and I will be having some other new fabrics appearing in the shop over the next week or two, so check those out if you're in the market for a new project bag or DPN holder and what have you. And I'm always happy to chat about custom orders if there's something, if you see a fabric in my shop that you like but it's not in the type of item that you're after, then I'm always happy to check my fabric stash to see if I have enough to make whatever you need. And with that, I will finish up. The sun is shining. It's been lovely having quite a few days above 10 degrees out here, and it just makes an enormous difference when you can feel the sunshine on your skin, and it feels like spring is around the corner. My veggie patch planting seems to be sort of making some progress. The kale and the spinach have been doing okay. I haven't eaten what's been coming out of there yet, but they're definitely growing. The sage and parsley have popped up, but the other herbs haven't, so I think it was a little bit too cold when I tried to plant them. And the beetroots don't look too happy, but I think I'm going to be able to eat some of their leaves at least, so I'll have to check out some more veggies and herbs and things that I can plant in springtime, and I should actually take some photos of them and show you how they've sort of progressed. But I'll leave it there. I hope that you're having a lovely week, and I'll see you soon.